Welcome to the Fish webinar, episode 3, Breaststroke. I'm Coach Kim.
Hey, I'm Coach Curtis.
We're excited to have you all. Okay, so we're just going to get started real quick. First thing we're going to show you is a quick video with Michael Andrew, how he won Olympic trials. He came in first. We're going to show you his nice stroke. He's got a nice pull out with a quick start, and his stroke was very quick. So we're going to show you that. It's queued up. Let's just take a look at him right here. He's right there in lane 4. It's a nice quick tempo. Strong pull out, quick breakout. Nice way up. Okay, so that's a quick video of Michael Andrew, winning Olympic trials, becoming first and getting his Olympic berth. Next, we're going to talk about our breaststroke skills. Oh. Hold on right quick. Okay, so we're going to talk about our overall goals. First, our main thing is to talk about how can we get down the pool as fast as you can. How will we do it? Well, we're going to try and use our energy efficiently and try and use less resistance and maximize power and speed. Okay, these are the breaststroke skills that we want to discuss with you. We're going to talk about body position, which is going to include streamline. Proper body position also includes looking down and not looking up. We want to make sure we look down and have high hips. We're also going to talk about having the proper catch and pull. That includes our out sweep and our in sweep. We're going to talk about how we can have proper recovery, where our hands are placed and how we extend our hands and arms. We're also going to talk about our kicking, our timing with our pull and kick and glide, and also our pullouts. So first we have body position. So with our body position, we always want to start and end in a streamline position. So when we do that, each stroke, we're going to start here, nice and tight. When we do that, we're going to pull our stomach in to keep our back nice and straight. Pull our stomach in, and then push out as far as we can. Now, when we talk head position, our eyes should be looking down. Now, if you see this picture right here, this is Rebecca Stoney. Her eyes right here are looking down towards her hands. Her head isn't looking up and forward, because when you do that, you increase resistance. You're kind of swimming with your chest first, and your chest is blocking all that water that's coming towards you. You want to decrease that, so your eyes want to be looking down towards your hands. You also want to keep your hips nice and high. Your hips should be high so you can reduce that drag while you're swimming forward in the water.
So one of the things that we talked about in our previous webisodes or whatever is that streamline is really important. And so if we are keeping our body in a nice straight line, right, it'll make it through the water a lot faster. So what breaststroke is always trying to get back into this streamline position every single time with those arms all the way forward, our head relaxed so that that water can go right over instead of running into our face, right? So keeping those arms all the way around your head is really, really important. And then tightening all of our muscles here in the middle of our body and even our legs.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so now we have the catch part of our breaststroke. The catch is right here where our hands are. We're gonna have our thumbs down. See if I can get more into the screen. We're gonna have our thumbs down and our pinkies up. Okay, kind of like, yeah, tea time. Pinkies are gonna be up right here. We're gonna have an out sweep where your hands kind of make a Y. That's going to be kind of your first phase of your pole. We have this picture right here. This lady, she's got a nice Y that she's making. Your elbows should also be high. When you're doing your pull, you want your elbows high. You don't want low elbows like this and your face into your hands. You want to have that high, wide, high elbow. The next phase is going to be your catch and your in sweep. So that's kind of right where your hands will round that corner that we talk about. So you're going to have that nice Y, and your hands are going to round the corner that we talk about. And then once your hands kind of round the corner, we're going to accelerate and come together. Now, when they accelerate and come together, you want to make sure that they come together at a point where your hands are higher than your chest. When they do that, they're going to come here, come together, meet at the upper chest, but you want your elbows below the surface and catch right here. You don't want to drop them too low, because if you might end up pushing the water down, or you'll just end right here, and that can kind of stop your movement, or you'll just increase resistance right here. You want to make sure you keep that movement flowing.
One of the things that I like to tell young swimmers, or when you've began to learn breaststroke, you probably learned how to make a big circle with our arms. We kind of adjust that a little bit as you get older, and it goes from like a circle to more of like a upside down heart. So you're starting at the top and then rounding over, getting your elbows in, and then making the V part of the heart right here in front of your face before you extend all the way forward again. So if you think about an upside down heart with your hands, that works. Or even just a triangle going from your streamline point to outside, and then getting your elbows in right to your middle, and then right forward.
Okay, next is the recovery part of your pull. So we talked about our arms here, catching, pulling, elbows here right above your chest, and then the recovery part is where you're gonna shoot out. So hands here right above your chest, and right here, this is Annie Laser. She just qualified for the Olympics in the 200 breast. See here, she has her hands right above her chest, and she's about to shoot out her hands forward. So when she does that, at the end of her extension, she should be actually right back into the streamline position, because we want to, like we said before, start and end our breaststroke in a streamline position.
One of the things that you always have to be aware of is the rules of breaststroke. And so making sure that those elbows stay underneath the water during your pull or during your recovery, sorry. That's one of the rules. So your hands can come up and over the water, but we want to make sure that those elbows stay in contact and underneath the water. I actually prefer telling people or keeping my hands pointed forward so that you've got the fingertips forward and your palms are down, so that as soon as you stretch all the way out, you're ready to start that next catch and out sweep, right? We spend a lot of time, if you are bringing your palms up and forward, you waste a little bit of time to turn them all the way around before you start your next pull. So you can save yourself some trouble and either bring them together and dive forward or palms down through the extension.
Okay, kicking. So when you kick, you want to keep those knees together, and you want your kick to be about hip width apart. And also, you want your knees to be pointed at the bottom of the pool. So although I'm using my elbows, pretend my knees are my elbows, you want them pointed to the bottom of the pool, and you want your feet to come around and snap together. So right here in this picture, this girl with the nice color pink suit right here, she has her knees pointed down to the bottom of the pool. Her feet right here are pointed out. And then we want our legs to finish in a snap position. And we want everything, our feet and toes and legs, to go back into a streamlined position when we finish. So we should end our toes up to our fingertips, should go back into a streamlined position.
If you're really flexible and a natural breaststroker, a lot of times your feet will just kind of clap together with the soles of your feet touching. That's like really, really great. But a lot of people don't have that flexibility. You can work on it, doing some circles with your foot, just rotating around by your ankle. That helps a lot. But some people just have a really great biological advantage and can touch those feet together.
Yeah. Okay, timing. Okay, so when we do our timing, this is what we talk about with pull and breathe and kick and glide. This is when we put everything together. So we want to start in a streamline with our head in line with our spine. So we pull and breathe. Our head doesn't want to break the surface before our hands separate. So we pull and breathe, and then we kick and glide. The next pull shouldn't start until the kick is completed. So that means that we're ending in our streamline, right? Pull and breathe, kick and glide, end in a streamline. Pull and breathe, kick and glide, end in a streamline.
You got to make sure that when you're taking that breath, you're starting it a little earlier than you think. As soon as your hands start that out sweep, you've got to start lifting your head up, so that way you can start breathing in by the time that your elbows come all the way together. And that's also a big reason why you should be blowing bubbles out and exhaling as much as you can as those arms go forward through the recovery. So that way you can empty out all those lungs and take that next breath really, really early.
So right here, this is a little kind of diagram or instructions. You start in your streamline, you take your pull, which is the out sweep we talked about, part of catch and in sweep. And then we breathe, we kick, we go back. This is part of our kind of recovery right here with our hands above our chest. And then we push back into our recovery and we kick and we glide. Okay. This is our pull out. So after we touch with two hands, breaststroke is always two hands, touch with two hands at our turn. We come off the wall. We push off in streamline. Now we're working on our pull out. So we push off in streamline. We do a nice dolphin kick. We do a tight pull down. So right here, if you see this picture, she's getting ready to do a nice and tight pull down. So she completed her streamline with her dolphin kick. She's ready to do a tight pull down. Her elbows are nice and high. She's about to press down and outline her body nice and tight. She stays narrow with her arms as she shrugs her shoulders. So right here, if you see this guy, he's really narrow. He's outlining his body. He's really narrow. You don't want to have a nice and wide pull out with your arms. You want to stay narrow so you can stay as streamlined as possible. After you do this phase, you want to kick. Can't see my legs right now, but I'm kicking. You want to kick and sneak up your arms nice and tight, again, because you want to stay as tight and small and narrow as possible so you can stay in that streamlined position. Right here, this girl is doing a really nice job of staying narrow and sneaking her body up.
One of the things that you should look at through all three of these pictures is that their head position doesn't change at all. So once they've dived in or once they've pushed off that wall in that streamline, their head is still eyes to the bottom. They've got that neutral kind of neck where they're not all cramped up. So stretch yourself out, keep that head and chin in line with the center of your body and your eyes on the bottom.
Exactly right. So this girl right here, she just completed sneaking up. And now as they go to the surface, she's gonna head to breaking out. So as we're gliding to the top of the water, we don't want to be too deep under the water because then we're gonna wait a really, really long time to kind of get to that surface. You wanna make sure you're under the water just enough so that you can break out and just get to the surface at the right time. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some challenges and some common mistakes that are made when we swim some breaststroke. So we're going to talk about head position. We're going to talk about if our elbows are too far back when we swim, if we are going up, swimming up and down rather than forward, if we pull too wide. Sorry, Coach Curtis, I almost hit you right there. If we have some ineffective kicking, maybe we're kicking with our feet in rather than feet out. And maybe the timing of our breaststroke, if we don't pull and kick and glide at the same time, we're going to talk about some of those things and how to fix it. Okay, the first thing is head position. So sometimes what we see in practice are swimmers who are looking forward and up rather than focusing on looking down in their hands. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about. We also see a bobble head, I like to call. Bobble head is when people look up and smack their head down. Look up really high at the ceiling, then smack their head down. With both of those things, it's important to keep your eyes down. This is Katie Miley. See how her eyes are still down at the water. She's following her hands as she swims. And when she swims, her head stays at that same position it doesn't move. She just keeps going and follows that same head position, and it stays nice and still. Go ahead, Coach Curtis.
So one of the drills that you can do to train yourself to prevent from, like looking up too much is to take like a tennis ball, put it right here underneath your chin, and you can try to swim breaststroke without losing that tennis ball the entire time. That's an easy fix. But really keeping that neck nice and straight and in line with our body helps us keep all of our momentum to go forward as we drive those arms all the way out through the recovery. So keeping your head and body in one straight position and then just leaning forward, keeping those eyes down.
Okay. Another thing that we see, sometimes people swim and their elbows are too far back. So they pull really far back and then go forward, really far back and then go forward. It can happen sometimes if you have a really, sorry, Coach Curtis, it can happen if you have a really wide stroke. So what you can do to practice is don't spend too long on the timing of your breath. Just kind of keep practicing shooting forward. Also, what can happen is if your arms aren't moving in a circular position, they're just kind of pulling down and then going back out. And you can also focus on smaller pulls.
Yeah, so the same thing that we were talking about before, making that heart shape, that upside down heart shape. But then if you have trouble and you feel like your elbows are going too far back, just making sure that they come together and clap right here underneath your chin, right? You should never lose sight of your hands until they reach all the way forward. What we were talking about with the timing of your breath is, again, breathing really early and then getting rid of that air is probably the most important part, because you're not going to be able to breathe in unless you've gotten rid of all the old air that you had.
Exactly. Okay, another challenge, going up and down, but not forward. So make sure that when we swim, our shoulders are in a shrugged position. Also, when we're swimming breaststroke, make sure that we're not kicking the water just down. We're kicking the water back. And if we kick down, we're going to kick ourselves up and down. Focus on reaching forward rather than going up and going down. We want to make sure that our recovery, we reach forward. Also, like we talked before, our head should always be following our hands and keep our chin down rather than going up and down, tucking and going down.
I feel like this one is really hard to describe the solution to, but it takes a little bit of coordination, and it's just following your hands as they shoot forward, that you're just leaning with your whole body, your shoulders and head, to fit into that streamline. If you've ever done like dolphin dives or just lots of dives into the pool, getting those arms up really fast, it's that same motion where you're working on that coordination between your arms and your head.
Okay, pulling too wide. This is something where it's very common. It happens if you're pulling the water around you rather than doing smaller circles, like Coach Curtis said, making like a heart. It can cause the elbows to come back behind your shoulders, which can stop forward progress, because like we kind of talked about prior to this, it'll increase your resistance. So when you pull, you'll pull the water into your chest rather than, helping you move forward through the water. So focus on smaller scoops and try not to sweep farther out than your shoulder width apart. Okay, ineffective kicking. This is something that's very common. So here are little pictures right here that we have. You want to be able to turn your feet out with your knees pointed down to the bottom of the pool and kick out and snap around. That's something we talked about before. Sometimes if your feet are turned inward, you want to make sure, like I just said, your feet are turned out and you're snapping your feet together. If your kick is too wide, they should be shoulder width apart max. And if your kick is incomplete, meaning you're doing everything right, but they're coming to about here and they're not completing your kick, just make sure that you're snapping your feet together. And on the bottom, make sure that you have great ankle flexibility, because ankle flexibility is so important. It'll help you turning your feet out and it'll help you snap your kick together.
Kicking is always really weird. There's so many different ways to do breaststroke kick and be successful. You'll see a lot of people do all sorts of things where they're just pushing against the water, but as long as you're keeping those knees close and you're not letting them bow out too much, you'll get a lot of efficiency out of that. So theoretically, this is what we would like to see in breaststroke kick, but you'll come across a million different varieties of kicking that are somehow very effective, and it's very frustrating. So you got to find what works for you.
Yeah. Okay, timing. A lot of people have problems with timing. I mean, because like Coach Curtis said, some people have different kicks, some people have wide pulls, some people have tiny pulls. There's a lot of different things. Some people have late timing because their heels aren't coming up fast enough. Some people are breathing late. Some people are breathing early. So if you're breathing late, just try and breathe a little bit early. I want you to try and breathe a little bit earlier right here when your hands are starting to come up and separate. If you're breathing early, start to breathe after you come out of streamlined position. And if you're kicking and pulling at the same time, and you're kind of constantly like this, I want you to focus on performing a pull followed by your kick. So you're gonna pull and then kick. So like we talked about before, pull and breathe and kick and glide. Don't begin again until you're in your streamline position.
Yeah, one of the drills that I use for working on timing is called hesitation drill. And so you only do the arms. You're just doing the pull, get yourself back into that streamline with your head down, and then you're going to count to 5 before you do the kick. All right, and then you make sure that your kick finishes, those feet come all the way together, and you can count to 5 again before you do your arms again. So just taking that extra time and being really, really relaxed and patient and holding that streamline as much as you can. And it helps you to really develop a little bit more of your own personal timing and how you want to, how long it takes each part of your stroke to develop.
Exactly. Okay, here's another thing that's kind of hard to explain, but it's when you're diving down and you're trying to emulate maybe an undulation motion rather than having your body just kind of feel it. So diving down is more like when you're kind of purposely trying to make your body just dive down and come back up, dive down and come back up. It happens when your hands are driving you down below the surface, and it results in just a tuck chin and your head is coming back up, tuck chin and coming back up. And your head ends up not following your hands like we talked about in a proper head position. So what we want to do is we always want to make sure, like we talked about, our head is following our hands.
Yeah, so you know, when you've got that recovery, and a lot of times you'll see kids chop down really fast with those hands. That takes all that motion, all that momentum that you've got, and it puts it straight down to the bottom of the pool instead of pushing forward and towards the wall where we want.
Okay, so here are some final tips we have for swimming fast breaststroke. We want to start and end in a streamline position. We want to keep our eyes down and our hips up. In our catch position, we want our pinkies up and our thumbs down, and we want to be in a Y position. We want our palms, if you can see me, our palms facing down and around, accelerate around the corner. When we recover, we want our hands above the chest, and we want to stretch nice and wide. When we kick, we want our heels turned out and our knees down. We want to stay tight and narrow during our pullouts, nice and tight, and we want to sneak up. We also want to be confident and trust our training. We want to not think before our race, right?
Well, think before your race, but don't let it interrupt your race.
That's it, Coach Curtis. We don't want it to interrupt our confidence. So be confident, trust your training, trust your coaches, and don't get it into our brains mentally. Just swim your heart out.
That's another reason why, like, you really got to work on it at practice. It's not going to just magically come together at a swim meet if you haven't been doing it at all at practice. So take the time, make sure that you're working on that technique. That's the biggest thing. If you do it over and over and over again in practice, you'll be confident, you'll know exactly what's going on, and you won't have to think about it when you are racing.
Exactly. And lastly, coming up in 2 weeks, you can watch Coach Curtis's presentation on starts and turns. So that's going to be pretty special. I will actually be with him. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do this again.
I know.
But next week, we have one for butterfly.
Yeah, butterfly.
All right.
That's going to be super special. That's going to be with Coach Matt, and it's going to be with Coach Jeannie. And they're going to talk about fun things with butterfly. I'm pretty excited about that one. So we have another video here. This is of Lily King. She's going to show you some fast breaststroke swimming. They show some really good angles of a pullout. They show some really good angles of how her recovery and high elbows are. So let's go take a quick look at this.
The Condors. She wins the Breaststroke Skills for the 4th time this season.
So she's taking 10 strokes there per length for that second 25. She looks really good. She's extending all the way out, making sure that every single one of those strokes count, even though her tempo is really, really high for this 50. But yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
The reason she's the best.
Yeah, it is the reason why she's the best. All right. There you go.
All right, so we're going to take some questions now. Did we? So Natasha and Anton Dmitrov asked, how will you know the right time to kick? So it takes a little bit of practice. You're gonna have to play around with it a little bit. I mentioned before about holding on to that streamline, being patient, and trying the hesitation drill. Essentially, you should be already with your elbows all the way into your ribs, and you should be starting that recovery with those hands forward before you even start bringing those feet all the way up to your butt, and getting them ready for that out sweep and big kick. We want to try to maximize the amount of power from our kick. And so getting into that streamline and being as close to a full streamline with our upper body before your kick actually starts pushing back and sweeping together. That's good. It's hard to say. It changes a little bit with every person. So there's no like, oh, it's 1.5 seconds or something like that, but trying to get the feel of getting your head all the way down and being in that streamline with your upper body before you do the kick extension.
Right.
Let's see, somebody else has asked what kind of drills you can do to practice kick. You can do kicking against the wall. So just holding on with both hands against a stationary wall and then just focusing on the motion of the kick and trying to feel how much power you have and how much it pushes you into that wall.
Mm-hmm. You can put on a snorkel and you can just kick in streamline position, just practice your kick that way.
Right. That's another great one because then you can also measure how far you get with each kick. If you're watching the bottom, counting how many tiles or whatever is on the bottom, that's good. Let's see, what other, you can also kick breaststroke on your back is a really helpful drill. That way your body is nice and flat against the surface. And then you're trying to keep your knees under the water as you do your breaststroke kick. And it's really, really difficult trying to keep your whole body. If you can see the mannequin here, he would be completely on his back. And as he's doing his kick, he's going to try to use his feet and bring them all the way back and drop them down behind him. Oh, and this one doesn't bend good enough. But
he's not a good bender.
But keeping those knees under the water and your whole body nice and flat right on the surface is a really good drill because it helps work on developing your hamstrings to bring those heels to your butt. I learned breaststroke without dolphin kicks, but you said there's a dolphin kick. We're specifically talking about the pullouts. So you're allowed to do one dolphin kick during a pullout. If you dive in, you're starting with that dolphin kick, and then that opens up those hands into a full pullout. But it is correct that you do not do a dolphin kick during your regular breaststroke swim. Someone has asked, what if I sink during breaststroke on my back? Well,
that's okay. It happens.
Yeah, just trying to hold in a lot of air to keep yourself buoyant, holding a really good streamline to extend as much surface area as possible. That helps keep us afloat, and then just doing those kicks.
Try and keep that belly button up.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty good. If you guys have any more questions, you can feel free to email us, get in contact. You go to pvfish.org. You can find all of our emails or sign up for the butterfly session. So.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. Like we said, next week is Butterfly with Coach Matt and Coach Jeannie. That I hear is going to be very exciting. And if you're looking to swim year-round, you can go to pvfish.org, like Coach Curtis just said, and you can go on that website, and there's a lot of information on how to join. And you can email us as well, and we'll be excited to give you as much information as we can to help you along. So that is it for our Breaststroke website and webinar. So we're excited to have you out here. Thank you for coming. Bye.